Hello.
Hi there. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you well.
Good. I should boost my volume to hear you better, though. Give me a little
It
volume
might
now.
be it might be the headphones, to
No,
be
you're
honest.
fine. It was just me, actually.
Oh, okay.
I'm just typing a description for Facebook. Give me one sec. I'll hold off sending that live until it's closer to the event.
And I don't need to speak. I just wanted to make sure, those that need it, just showing my support. That's all.
Yep.
You had a very good weekend, I saw. Everybody loves you now.
I don't know about all that, but
Oh,
no,
I think they love you. I
it
think
was
it's lovely that you went to all those events.
well. I did want to get to Matilda at one of those shows, so it just stuffed into Saturday because everything else that was going on. If you missed that basketball game, your family was there for it. We were all like,
I
wow.
know, I didn't realize everybody was there. I was like, oh, well, I can't. I was already scheduled. It's a problem.
It's okay. We'll get you. Their first game, I think, is either the 21st when I get back or the 22nd. So, and it should be at
Really,
their house
like,
because higher seed hosts. So that'll be a busy game.
let me know. I don't know when anything is. I find out after the fact that you're hanging out with my parents. I'm like, oh, okay.
And your brother.
And my brother, yeah. Where's Bernadette? Well, Bible study.
You're the designated survivor.
Oh man, nice.
Just tell Jeff we're on in case he wants to jump on, test his volume. I would assume that Jennifer sent him the information.
Jeff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's with this apps bar suddenly? Some Zoom apps thing.
I don't know.
Was that okay? That's better. Oops. So you guys don't have a day off today.
No. No, but the members are off next week. Get my next Monday off. So
Jeff comes with the hardware behind him.
no, all three of us have very different backgrounds. You got sports, I got tulips.
let's
Then
do two things, Jeff. Let me test your sound. So unmute for a sec if you can. Try spacebar. There you go.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
There you go. And do me a favor if you can move your camera down just a little bit. I don't know if it's on a lap. There you go. Perfect. Now you're in the shot.
Okay.
Awesome.
Good afternoon.
hello.
So far, we're the only three here, but it's 12:56, so we got a few minutes. I'm assuming that Jennifer sent everybody the right info. She was tracking down all those email addresses Friday.
From the business association?
That and the property owners too that we had.
Oh, okay.
Either way, we're recording it. We're going to put it up on YouTube tomorrow when everybody's back in. So we'll just act like there's a bunch of people there. Here we go.
I'm gonna go on mute, I think.
Hi, Stacy. Aim to start at like 1:02. Give people a couple minutes, a couple extra minutes. And hello to everybody that's popping on right now. I see Dana's there and our friends over at Boho Chic and everything. Hey, Dana.
Hi.
How you feeling?
I think I turned the corner today, so
I hope so.
I think it's because I was bragging that I was a super dodger that the universe was like, nope, you're gonna get it.
Oh gosh, sorry.
Okay. I survived.
Well, luckily we did this on Zoom instead of in person for you. And Dana, I'm going to attempt to simulcast this over to my Facebook, use Facebook Live. I'll start that at 1, and then we'll actually get into the meat of this at like 1:02, give people some extra time to jump on. I'll introduce everybody, give a brief overview of what's going on, turn it over to Jeff. Jeff, I have a PDF from Labella of Front Street, the one that we saw the most updated version of their map with the match line on it and everything. So I can put that up while you're talking if there's anything you want to highlight or talk about specifically, okay?
Okay.
So we come with visuals.
Hello, guys.
Hello there. Just gonna give people a couple extra minutes to get on. In the meantime, trying to get the Facebook Live aspect on. I just learned that if you leave it sitting there for a few minutes, it assumes that you no longer have permission to do it. It looks like it is working now, so that's good. We'll go in another minute or so. Now they're coming on fast and furious. I say, hi, everybody. Okay, well, I see Nora get back in her seat. That'll be my sign that we should go. Here we go. So everybody, want to thank everybody for joining us, and obviously we'll have some more people probably popping in. We're also streaming this on Facebook Live. We'll be posting it to YouTube on Tuesday, most likely, once the Monday meeting is up and running. We'll get this up there too. But I know there's been a lot of hope to have some information come as soon as possible with respect to the Front Street work that's going to get done during the spring, essentially. And while we're not going to have perfect answers today, I will tell you that right now, we will have some things for you to think about, some schedule overall that we're trying to bracket in. And I want you to see that we are working toward making sure we minimize the interference to businesses, and also making sure that property owners and those that live above you as well will have the ability to have free access and parking still to the degree we can allow it safely throughout this project. For those that don't know, obviously Trustee Bernadette is with us today, and she's our liaison to BSBPA. This meeting is really specifically for the businesses and the property owners. That's why we want to make sure we kind of directed the invitation this go around. This will not be the last of these meetings. I'm sure we're gonna have something next month when we get a little bit closer to the date of the actual start of things. Jeff Garis, who's our DPW superintendent, also with us. And we're gonna walk through kind of what Jeff and his folks have kind of worked over the last couple of weeks, especially to start pinning down dates, approaches, things that need to get done. Jeff, why don't I throw it to you in terms of just time frame and initial thoughts, and we'll have a little discussion between you and me, and then eventually we'll ask people to raise their hands, ask questions as they have them a little bit later on in this. But first, we want to get kind of down to the nuts and bolts details I know everybody wants to hear.
Okay. So the project is Front Street, if you will, and Spring Street, hopefully also side street along the Sunset and the Medbury, going from Milton Avenue, Route 50, and actually technically all the way to West High Street, 67, just past the DPW garage. So, but our concentration for today and in the initial part of the project is from Milton Avenue, Route 50, to just past the village office, just past Bath Street. Right now, the work is involving the last step, which would be milling and paving of the asphalt surface, curb to curb, in that area. Along with that, though, comes storm drainage catch basin replacement and sidewalk repair and installation, mostly for the purpose of ADA compliant warning tiles at all crosswalks. So that's the bulk of the project. Right now, tentatively working with my folks, we've come up with a approximate 9-week schedule to go from Front Street to Bath Street. We would most likely consider, and we're looking towards working on one side of the street first, and then moving to the other side to try to create a traffic flow. When we work in those areas, if we were to, for an example, excavate out a crosswalk, we will excavate with a backhoe and remove concrete and soil, whatever we need to, and then spend the following time forming and preparing this the substrate for concrete pours, which in essence are concrete sloped sidewalks meeting ADA regulations, DOT regulations, and placing of the ADA warning tiles. Sorry, somebody in DOT is trying to call me. Let's see. So where was I? So part of the concentration or part of the obstacles to overcome are the areas in reality are somewhat small. But there's right now at this point 11 locations for AD walks. We probably have at this point 3 catch basins for total replacement. We're trying to meet a deadline of June 1, or in essence May 31st, to be completed. From a financial standpoint, from both our own money that's budgeted for this paving year that we're in, this fiscal year that we're in, and also some CHIPS money that are also going in place. We can roll CHIPS money, but our intention is to get it done by June 1. So it's a pretty aggressive schedule. So backing into that, in essence, the 9 weeks to use at this point, in essence, is all of May, as I look at my calendar, all of May, all of April, and at the latest, last week or 2 of March starting. Our intention is to actually start some work in February, March to get a jump on things. So maybe go replace a catch basin or work at a sidewalk area. Most likely a catch basin, because temperatures aren't working with us right now as far as pouring the concrete, and we can't get hot mix asphalt till the plant's open tentatively middle of April. And I'm still have to review the county bids in which we determine who our supplier is for asphalt and who the milling and paving contractor would be. So there may be people that we worked with in the past. There may be new people, which just creates a little more scheduling, that type of thing. But you know, we can overcome that.
And Jeff, I just want to move back on a couple things here to highlight them, to kind of tamp down some of the fears and thoughts of people that I've heard along the last couple of weeks. We are not endeavoring to replace entire sidewalk in this project. We are only endeavoring to do ADA compliance. That does not mean we wouldn't suggest to property owners that the right time probably to redo your sidewalk, if you are experiencing things that need repair or replacement on your sidewalk, and getting somebody in to do that, which is your responsibility under our code, wouldn't be in that time frame to make sure, you know, while we're doing other work, that all work's getting done at the same time, so we kind of have it done once and right ultimately. So we're working with our attorney to make sure we can get that sidewalk code revision that provides better incentives in it for sidewalk repair and replacement by middle of March is what the goal is. So we're working to do that to maybe make it a little bit better for folks to get that sidewalk repair replacement done. We are just endeavoring to do as a village what we can do legally, which is ADA compliance. And then we can talk to individual property owners to maybe nudge you to say, hey, you know as well as we do that there's some repairs needed out there. Please do them. We don't want to use the code against people in this type of situation at all. So we're not endeavoring to do so. So we're focusing mainly here on, as Jeff said, catch basins, sidewalk ADA compliance, and repaving. And the other thing that Jeff and I were talking about last week, Jeff, in terms of the pave itself, there's the mill and then there's the fill, and trying to ensure that those tasks are done probably on Mondays to the degree possible, because of the importance of not interfering with business. In the worst case, Tuesdays for any work that was remaining. If you want to talk a little bit more about that possibility.
Sure, that's what we would try to focus. We would try to focus on Mondays and Tuesdays for that milling and repaving in the street. We would mill. Right now, the way we see it, and based on experience, it's only going to take one day to mill, and probably 1 day or 1 day plus repave. There's always things that get uncovered during the milling process, so we never want to plan for paving the following day. So maybe we'd mill on a Monday or Tuesday and then do some repairs. In some times in this old village, the milling surface is actually easier to drive on than the existing surface. So it's not a bad thing, but there are manholes and valve boxes that have a tendency to stick up because we, in essence, mill an inch and a half off, make repairs and put an inch and a half of new surface back on to level and smooth that. So it isn't our intention at any point, except for the milling and paving process, to ever close Front Street down totally. So now if we have a ready mix truck pulling in to pour concrete for ADA walks, we may close a lane or close the street, which would be minutes or at the most an hour type of thing. We'll try to schedule those on slower days when possible. And here again, we will kind of hopscotch, if you will. There's not, some of these ADA areas aren't large enough for us to get a ready mix concrete truck. So we can't just, as expensive as it is, and our prices are going to be increased because the total concrete on the whole Front Street project isn't all that much, but it's little pieces. So we pay a premium for short load, but we can't get 1 yard of concrete, which may be in one particular instance where it's only a yard or two of concrete. So we'll do multiple spots, but the way I picture it is, in essence, we may go in and excavate a 88 sidewalk, form and prep it ready to go. Then we can move out of that spot. We might take 2 or 3 parking spots while we're doing that process, or while we're doing the prep work, and then move down to the next spot and take 2 or 3 parking spots for a day, and prep that, and then prep 2 or 3 or 4 of them, and then in essence come in a morning and pour all those at one time. So I don't know that we'll ever have parking spots actually blocked off at night, except for possibly a safety issue or leaving a piece of equipment because it's going to save us time as opposed to remobilizing the next day. But there'll be, and here again, our schedule is aggressive, so we may do 2 processes at one. We might have a crew reinstalling, replacing a catch basin while another crew is prepping sidewalk areas. So, but here again, I don't ever picture us ever closing the street down entirely. And here again, maybe a lane, but more parking spots at one time. Here again, we're still working out some of the details ourselves. Some of these ADA walks don't reach all the way to the storefront, so people hopefully will have enough space. So working on dimensions to get people pedestrian-wise around those areas. The easiest and safest way to push everybody to one side with signage saying use the other side, cross here, but you'll still be able to cross over and get to that I picture now every storefront in between construction. So.
And basically you're saying, let's say we're working on this side of the sidewalk. I think my mouse is visible here on the what is that, north side of the street.
North side.
Yeah. And so you say basically use other side. So people walking here, but I need to get this to this building. You'll still be able to probably cross somewhere around the crosswalk area or near it and cross over to that side of the street to get into that building. We're not going to close access to your shops, and we're going to work with you to make sure that there is always access there, correct?
Correct. Yep.
And as Jeff was talking, parking as well. This is something now that we have a better sketch of what's going on. We're going to be working to identify other parking options to replace some of the divots we're taking here as we do this project. Obviously, it's not going to be astronomical divots and parking expectations that we currently have, but every space counts in the village of Ballston Spa, as we all know. And so, especially for Wednesday through Friday activity that might be going on, to make sure that we're protecting your businesses and your customers' abilities to get there, and also the residents' abilities to park there how they normally expect it. So there's more to come on that. Jeff, anything else you want to cover here before we maybe open up the floor?
I don't think so. Hit most of the highlights. So we'll work up a plan on how to go about signage. Part of me says let's put signage up that says Front Street under construction, but business is open, which is probably a good idea. On the other hand, we'll get people's opinion on maybe that scares people because they see the word construction that they don't want to. So we'll maybe probably get some feedback on what's the right way to go about that. Obviously positive promotion on, here again, we're open to business and, come on down. So I think that's probably most of the highlights for me. So
Improvements underway. How's that?
there you go. Sounds great.
So at this point, I know there may be a team leader here that might have questions. Dana might be one of those team leaders. I see her hand up. So Dana, you can actually unmute and jump right on in if you want.
Sure, thank you. Thanks for the information. Jeff, just a quick question. The 9 weeks, I wasn't quite clear. Is that from Milton to Bath? Is that what you were saying, or is that the entire project?
No, right now, just analyze that. So yeah, there'll be some more time and hoping we can make up time to go from Bath to West
Beyond.
High Street.
Okay, so.
But it'd be similar
for-
situation as we move west, but similar situation.
Okay, but the timing that we're talking about now is considered Milton to Bath.
Bath, right,
Okay.
right.
Okay. I know that, I know there's plenty of other questions, so I'm gonna mute and then listen and then go from there.
So Dana has reserved questions in case there's no questions. That's what I got from that. But let's have anybody else that wants to raise their hand with a question at this point. Please feel free to jump in. We want to give as much information as possible here. Like I said, we will do this again probably sometime early next month. My guess around the 10th of the month or thereabouts to get you more information. Natalia, if you want to unmute, you go right ahead.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Sorry. You mentioned that you're going to be, you were mentioning about the milling and the pouring, and that you do it on a day-to-day schedule, like you do a milling one day and then you do the pouring one day. I kind of wanted to know if the stores will know what areas you'll be doing this when, so that we can accommodate our programming or our events, depending on whether on that the second week of April you're focused right in front of my store, or the end of May you're going to be towards the other side. Like, is that what you mean by how it works, or is it the whole time? So just curious about that.
Jeff, if I may, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know that we have an exact time, but also we can, as we get into the project, I mean, if people are open to conversation, you know what I mean, or we can come up with a method of passing along information, we can do that. So, and as they get closer, I could put out a tentative schedule. So thinking we're going to try these 3 applications, these 3 storefronts, 3 addresses for concrete sidewalks, and predict that they're going to take us so many days, weather included and other issues in the village. And then hopefully we can meet or beat that schedule. So we could, supply information as we get closer. And we get our heads around exactly how and where we're going to start. But
and Jeff, just to focus on the question of mill and fill that I think she was asking about too. Milling is really a one-day event. It will be the entire street. That's why we want to focus on a Monday if we can. So what will happen is mill on a Monday. So most of you are closed on that day anyway. And then you're going to have a bumpy, kind of that grooved street that you've seen before, where they tell motorcycles be careful and everything, but also may have some structures sticking up slightly because of that milling. So we'll make sure that those are bracketed off somehow so people stay safe on it. Then, like he said, there'll be fixes throughout that week. When they expose that milled surface, they may find things they need to level off or handle along the way. And then the paving itself will be, again, just a one-day process that next Monday, for instance. So the plan is Monday and Monday, hopefully, although we'll convey that, and that will be the last steps of the process pretty much toward the end of May. So we'll know specifically which week as we get closer to it and warn everybody, but understand that we're going to confine the effects of it to basically a Monday and a Monday with a little bit of inconvenience during the interim week with the bumpiness that road may exhibit.
Right, and as the mayor said, the paving, actually striping, once paving is done, let's go back restriping parking spots and crosswalks. That's the very last step, but the paving is the second to last, and the milling is, although there's a repair in between, that's the third to the last step. But the first steps will be replacing catch basins and then doing sidewalk areas first. So that's going to be the if things go really well, that, Monday milling and Monday paving are the last week or two of the project. So the other work will be here again. We have to replace, for an example, we need to replace a catch basin in front of the existing Sunset Cafe. Well, that's underground and it's a deep hole. So we're going to dig that first. And then once that's all done and backfilled and stabilized, then we will do the sidewalk portion of that. So while we concentrate in that area, other areas will be open. So we'll just pick spots at a time. But as the mayor said, the paving and milling are the very last 2 weeks of the schedule. So the upfront work will be underground and then sidewalk repair replacements.
Before we get to Cynthia's question, Cynthia, I see your hand, so I'm just going to ask you 1 second. I do want to talk briefly about some of what's going on at Wiswall Park and let Jeff kind of explain what they found, what their plan is to this, at least to this point, because there's still some fluidity in terms of looking into that with our engineers over at Labella, I know. But Jeff, people have seen some real construction or digging going on there. If you want to give a brief explanation of what's going on and what work at a minimum you foresee with respect to that process.
Sure. We're uncovering, if you will. We have very old infrastructure, so we have underground pipes there. We have some stone laid pipelines, if you will, and we have some clay pipelines. And right now in Wiswall Park, we're actually just trying to get access. In the perfect world, in our perfect world, you have access through structures that come to the surface, so we can go in and clean those structures, clean the pipelines, run TV cameras, and we can analyze the pipe and the structures underground. Where we are with Wiswall, it's a little tricky. Is we know where those pipes are, we feel we know where they are, but we don't have access right now. So we've poked a couple holes to try to find out, and now as time goes on, we find more and more information. So we need to get into that pipeline and those structures and to analyze the underground structures. That's where we are. We're intend on as early as this week to go back into Wiswall. Now that we've got a little better handle on where we think things are, and do some more underground digging and some more investigative work. So that's where we are with Wiswall. And the purpose for that is that that will get us access to some pipes that go under Front Street and to find out that everything is intact and we're okay to go to move forward here. So that's where we are with Wiswall. So once Front Street is done, any work that's done in Wiswall, not to get too far ahead, but that can be accessed from Low Street and Walnut Street. So whatever park project comes on us as a village, that can be taken care of from there and not from the Front Street side.
And one of the things you and I have talked about over the last couple of weeks is that you need probably to install some manholes along that pipe or along those pipe areas, because when they originally put them in this day and age, if you put a pipe under the ground, you put manholes every so often to make sure that there's access. We have no access through manholes, so that's something I think we're trying to rectify as well, correct?
Yes. Yep. There we go. Find some access to those pipes so that we can look them over and have access for the future.
Thank you, Jeff. Cynthia, go right ahead. Thanks for your patience.
Oh, yep, thank you. I'm with Boston Spa National Bank. So is the work ending at Bath Street, or is that just one phase?
No, it's more or less one phase. We'll continue from Bath all the way to Route 67 West High Street. So past Science Court, Fairground, and all the way past the DPW Garage 67. That is part of the paving project. So we will continue, and if we pick up the pace, we'll attack that before June 1, and if not, it may cross over into June 1 to do that second phase, if you will. Yep.
Great. And then just another question I had. I apologize, Mayor. I think I just missed you. You mentioned something, or someone mentioned something about if you had any sidewalk work that needed to be done. What should we be doing with that?
So I remember that the repair and replacement of sidewalks is in our code, falling onto the adjacent property owner's shoulders, basically. And we're working to revise our code, hopefully in mid-March, that will provide better incentives, reimbursements for that, because currently the reimbursements are very far shy of what most expectations would be for reimbursement. Where by state law, we're not allowed to give more than 50%, but we're well short of that right now in terms of what's in the code. So this is a great time for multitude of reasons to get any work for repair and replacement done in that April to June sweet spot, depending on what part of the street you're on, and maybe coordinating with our DPW to find out when it might be most advantageous to do that certain section, so that you're in compliance with respect to the safety of your sidewalk, and also so that you're not kind of redoing a piece of sidewalk that, let's say, Jeff's folks are doing for ADA compliance purposes. All we do is ADA ramping, and that comes with the CHIPS money essentially that we get. That's a requirement for us to accept CHIPS funding, is make ADA accessibility on sidewalks. But the rest of a sidewalk is the adjacent landowner's responsibility to repair and replace. Some are a lot better than others. Some don't need anything. Some need a lot of work from just walking on a daily basis from Route 50 to back to the office. I've seen it myself. And so again, it would be advantageous probably to get it all done at the same time, so that you're not inconveniencing your customers or your nearby neighbors' customers later on with a closed sidewalk for that purpose.
Okay, and you said that we would coordinate with the DPW on that.
For timing, they're not going to do that work for you. But you would have to get a contractor out there. But the best case scenario is that DPW and your contractor communicate so that your contractor knows when we might be hitting that section and maybe spot out the best time to get it done.
Excellent. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. And if you want to put your hand, okay, yeah, and she already did. She's right on top of it here. Who else has questions for us besides Dana? Dana, if you want to jump in with another one, feel free.
I lost my mute button for a second. I'm just looking through some of the emails I've gotten from other business owners throughout the past few weeks. Okay, so when you're doing the ADA, making let's say there is a section like by the iron roofs that needs to become ADA compliant. Are you just doing like the front part, or are you doing like an entire section? Like, are you ripping up that whole section of the sidewalk, or is it just like the front of the curb making it ADA compliant?
Right now, looking at what we've looked at is the typical width of the sidewalk, I think from building front to curb is like 8 foot. We hope not to go beyond 4 or 5 foot, just so that we can meet our specifications and get our slopes properly. So
Okay.
if we're actually land right in front of a door, it could get tight, but there still should be access.
Okay.
But we don't plan on going all the way to building facades if we don't need to, and we don't plan to, so we don't see that happening. So.
And then specifically, like in the same scenario, let's say there was one that you were fixing outside of iron roofs, and we're talking sidewalks. Like, how long would like one section of a sidewalk take? Like, how long would they be without that area?
That's a great question.
Mhm.
Great question. So round numbers, a day to excavate a particular section, a day to form or prepare it for concrete.
Mhm.
And then in essence, we would probably, we'll cordon off that section, move to the next one, so that we can do enough areas to get enough concrete to make it work. We don't ever want to pour 20 yards of concrete in our world, just because that's too much concrete. It is intricate work as far as slopes and joints and ADA pads. So we don't want to take on too much, but we would do multiple locations. But so yeah, the excavation portion is a day, the preparation's another day. We might cordon it off. So we might start at, there's 2 crosswalks, one opposite Henry's, one opposite the park, So we do one, move on to the next one. Maybe the work is done on the catch basin down at Sunset. We move to that one and we prepare all those 3. Then we come in one morning and pour all those sections. So yeah, here again, I'm overprotective of poured concrete and asphalt where I come from. So technically you could see people pour their sidewalks and walk on it the next day. I don't recommend that. It can, or some you know, delivery person comes in with a utility cart, and they turn their wheels around, now they scrub the concrete, and those divots you and I will have to look at for another 10 or 20 years. So
Yeah.
I'll be overprotective of concrete, but in reality, we could pour one day and walk on it the next day if needed. So, you know, a few days after those 3 areas are poured, we can open those right back up to foot traffic.
Okay.
And take back the parking spots to let people get out and, you know, as we move down the street and then across.
And so that while, okay, so again, Iron Roost just is that because it's in my head. So
Yep.
while you're working on that section, that side of the road of Front Street would be closed off. Am I right or not?
No,
No.
we're gonna close a couple spots in front of our routes while we
Okay.
dig, prep it for a day or two,
Okay,
coordinate it off, move down, take over a couple, 2 or 3 more parking spots. So
but
there
not the
again,
entire street. So what would, and I'm sorry, it might be my COVID brain here, but so what would be a case, like, what would you be doing for an entire, like half? Because you mentioned you might close off half of the road at some point. Would that just be for machinery and things?
That would just be for machinery, right?
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
excavate. So, I mean, a backhoe comes in and, you know, digs it, removes concrete, a dump truck load it out. Once that's done,
Okay.
it's a few men and a couple of pickup trucks. So we just need a few spots. So, and then
So
we
it's not
move
gonna,
on.
it's not gonna be days at a time, or like,
No, days altogether, but not, yeah, it might be a day or 2 at
Consecutive,
a
okay.
location and
Okay.
move the way down. So.
okay, all right. I see Natalia has her hand up, so I'll back out again.
Sounds good. Natalia, go ahead.
It's just to piggyback off of what Dana was asking, because you're saying that you're going to cordon off the section and then you're gonna move to the next 2 spots. But does that mean that so then that section is not accessible plus the section that you are now working on, correct?
Right, the section's not available to pedestrian traffic. You'll still be able to walk around it, still be able to park in front of it, but it won't be until we get a few more and then come back in and pour concrete.
Right,
And
just to be specific on that, because I see where you're going with that, Natalia. Think of it as 3/4 of the width of your sidewalk may have work being done on it. There's still probably about 1/4 of it that's going to be accessible. What you can walk around it. We're not going to
Very stuck
advocate.
to the facade of the building, right? That's what he's saying, like like a little edge right in there.
No, 3 to 4 feet most likely, without getting too particular, you know, 3 to 4 feet. So that's a person could still walk. So, and a wheelchair could still get down that sidewalk. So no closer to the facade than that.
Okay.
We're not going to advocate necessarily they try to squeeze in like that. You know, that's one of those, maybe use the other side of the street sidewalk to travel. But then when you get to your destination on the other side of the street, cross at that point. That it's just a common sense scenario. Once you see that develop, you don't want to put people walking down that side of the street for those days that it's affected. But again, we're minimizing those effects as best we can and making sure that there's access to your storefronts at all times.
How long do you expect sections to be cordoned off, more or less?
I don't know that I could get into particular days or weeks, but yeah, you know, a week or maybe 2 at the most, that type of a thing. So if we're on the north side from Front Street to Spring Street, you know, that might be a week or plus of preparation, then another week to pour, and then it's opened again. So.
Okay, who else? Dana, I think you still have reserve questions there. So if you want to jump in, go ahead.
Okay, and then they just, some other folks just wanted to know, like, is there any point where people won't physically be able to get into their stores? Like, do they need to plan for like the back side of the building to be used or anything like that?
I don't see that at this point.
Okay.
No. I
Okay.
don't see that. Right. So the other thing is, you know, here again, we're going to have a lot of conversation and promotion, if you will. Things that will slow us down, even though I don't think they're actually supposed to park overnight. When people park overnight, if we come in and they're in front of the spot that we need to work, that's going to delay us. You know what I mean? We got to regroup and move down, and then it'll throw things off. So I'm sure people can promote that to, you know, not parking overnight, so we can start early in the morning and that type of thing. Here again, I picture when we go home, you know, we give back the parking spots, except for, you know, maybe some special reason, but we'll give back the parking spots and it'll just be walking around cordoned off. Now here again, if we signage up that says promotes using the other side because it's a lot easier. Like the mayor said, you're still gonna have access to your front, but if we're working the north side and we're promoting walking on the south side, it's just gonna be a lot easier and a lot smoother if people do that, day and night, 24 hours a day, as opposed to us trying to change signs every day. Is just gonna slow the process. So here again, people get deliveries, we understand that, but delivery guys, they work around us when we do that, when we remove snow from Front Street, that type of thing. So, we direct traffic and move people in and out, but we can work with all that. So,
Natalia.
I promise this one's not too bad. No, you had mentioned about because you were just talking about signage. And I think one of the things that would be really, really helpful to the businesses is in the signage to say where people can park, like point them to the direction of where they should park, or maybe talk to some property owners who do have spaces to maybe allow car parking to happen at that time, maybe offer some incentives to open up their space, like the space next to McCoy or something like that, where there's places where cars could go while all these spots are taken. Because one of the big issues that we've been hearing, at least from my customers, is like, it took me a while because I couldn't find parking. So if we're already restricting the parking, to really give them alternatives to go somewhere, and that it is clearly stated where they can go.
Yep. And as we figure out, like I said, possible additional spots that we can utilize during that time, we'll be making sure BSBPA gets that information out as well to everybody. Like I said, I didn't want to go that route until I knew what our time frame was in general. Now that we have a better grasp on it, it's time to pursue those options at this point. And I know BSBPA and the Saratoga County Chamber of Commerce and everybody are really trying to band together to promote your businesses during this time, to give some other options possibly, and better access possibilities along those lines. Dana, is there anything you want to jump in? I see you unmuted right as I say it, so you're right on this. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know not everybody on this Zoom is part of the BSCPA, but we're here for the good of all of Boston Spot, and it's been on our radar for a while. So we've been brainstorming behind the scenes as far as how to still promote Front Street, how to still ensure that people know that businesses are open, you can still get to our businesses, because we've got a lot of restaurants and very popular businesses on Front Street. And so I have been in touch with Todd Shimkitz from the Saratoga County Chamber. We are members of the BSBPA, is a member of the chamber there, and they have offered us some marketing services and are 100% on board, and have had experience with this too in Saratoga. And so I was kind of waiting for the timeline too, and so I'll be reaching out to them to kind of brainstorm and come up with a plan. If you have any ideas or would like to be part of that plan and the brainstorming, you can email me directly which is dana@boston.org. And I can get you on a list as far as that goes, but we'll be rolling out some things soon to help just make sure we're still relevant, not irrelevant, relevant. And yeah, we're here for you. So
I just want to underscore what an asset everybody has in Dana, the work she puts in, the communication with us. I know Bernadette and I are always hearing from her with ideas from you or concerns. And that this meeting is actually, we're going to do this anyway, but she was like, please get something as soon as possible. So we want to make sure we got it pushed up to this point now that we have the information. And like I said, we'll do another one. So this isn't it. I stretch the imagination, but this is kind of that starter, help you think, because as Natalia pointed out to me when I saw her the other day, you start doing ordering for supplies or inventory at this point for the spring. So you want to know, am I wasting money on that? My honest answer, based on Jeff's assessment and Dana's assessment of things, is no. I think you're going to have a great business spring with a couple hiccups here and there, and we're going to do everything we can to remove those hiccups and give you what is ultimately a beautiful, great street down the line here. Think of the improvements and just, what that street's like. Let's face it, and how it acts in the winter or during storms, whatever. That's what this work's going to help alleviate those problems. So think of the upside on the other side of this hill here, and it's going to be a great thing for your businesses in the long run. Just we got to get to the hiccups here in the meantime. Anybody else with a question or thought?
I got a question.
Sure.
Okay, just to reiterate on the signage and parking, are you going to have information for people, like when they come to town, they can see where they can park and where they can go when they're coming in? Visitors, that I mean.
The hope is to have some ability to map out some other locations, as Dana was suggesting too. So we're going to work with Dana to maybe come up with some mapping and some maybe throwaway maps that we can put in those locations to help them to understand where they can and can't go. Putting individual signage may be a little tough, but if we can identify one central repository for additional parking, we will go that route at that point. If it's kind of touch and go in terms of a couple spaces here, a couple spaces there, that might be a little tougher, but we'll definitely, once we know the sum total of what we can offer, we will work with that and make sure that the information is available to the people that need it.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Anybody else? Go ahead, Steve.
I've got a question about the pipe repairs you're looking at. So if it looks like you're going to have to repair some pipe, what's that going to entail? Are you going to have to do some excavation in the street itself? And how long would you expect it would take to have to replace some pipes?
We may have to do that, but since I don't know what those repairs are, there's no way to put a timeline on it. So we're just going to try to, try to start that early. The weather work cooperates. We're going to do some February and March. We plan on starting March, or we can start sooner. But here again, until I know the degree of that, it's hard to comment on that. So hopefully it won't slow us down and we won't find a lot, and we'll just stay aggressive and try to nip some of that stuff as soon as we can. So.
Okay, thanks.
No problem, Steve. And one thing is, Dana, this will be a good transition back to Dana for a question or thought. As you probably could guess by now, the Winterfest and sledding down the hill is not going to be really capable of happening. Otherwise, it might lead to road burn because of the fact that we have no snow and don't seem to have any snow in the forecast in the next 12 days. So there may be an opportunity to have a little bit of celebration event down the line as well. Instead of closing the street for Winterfest, closing it for something to celebrate the fact of what's upcoming, to also build awareness and maybe do some fun stuff in the street that Dana has brought to me and others as well. But some thoughts there that could develop down the line. Just let us know what we can do to assist and promote, and get you a closure if you need it or something along those lines. We're happy to assist. Dana, go ahead.
There. Oh, the Village Arts Committee has also been really interested in helping with that too. So if you have an idea of an event, like I know they've thrown out like painting the road or something before it gets torn up, or like there's some other fun ideas that the Arts Committee has had. So if you have any ideas like that could be a fun alternative to Winterfest. I'm not on the Winterfest committee, but I'm all ears and can pass along specific information. And then just backing up to Steve's question about the pipes, would that be the section between Low or would that be all between Milton and like Spring, or the whole pipes go under the whole section of that up to Bath?
Jeff, what are you assessing in terms of pipes right now?
Like if you needed to repair pipes, is that, I'm just thinking like pipes that would go from the park underneath front and over, but it's actually the entire, or is there that possibility the entire length?
We have our traditional water pipes, obviously, that go the stretch of Front Street. We have the pipes that we know go across from Wiswall to Spring, essentially. From there, I'll let Jeff, the professional on this, take over.
Yeah, at this point, we're thinking that it's only that area from Wiswall across the Spring. So there is other infrastructure within front. We don't anticipating replacing or repairing that, although some of that we might not know until we actually dig a hole in the ground. So, and again, concentrating from Milton to Bath at this point, but there is other work to be done west of there. So and just so that it's not a surprise to anyone, we've been in contact with National Grid, and National Grid is going to replace some gas mains on Front Street. Right now, I'm waiting for plans to arrive and approve, but right now most of that gas work will be done, gas main work will be done from about the Medbury to Science Street. So we know that's coming, and they plan on doing that work in March, so they'll be ahead of us. So we may be working together at the same time, but and I don't want to speak out of turn what their schedule is, but I think their work is only a week or two. They start in March, they'll be there. Along with that, when the mayor mentioned promoting anyone that is going to replace the sidewalk, we want to do some coordination, but over exaggerated. If everybody replaces the sidewalk while we're working there, it could be a beehive. So there'll be some, we'll need conversation and communication. I think it'll all shake out, but here again, we don't know what, if I've got 4 locations that go at once, we don't want to add 3 more, but here again, I don't think if anyone does that, they're not long duration type thing. I'm thinking somebody's sidewalk will be replaced in a week within the schedule, but we just would want to coordinate. So from traffic.
And one thing I want to point out too, for those that have seen what happened on East High Street with some of the stuff we had to kind of undermine in terms of the stuff we repaved. And that was because Grid didn't really coordinate well with us in that situation with their gas infrastructure. Here, we are ensuring that Grid is coordinating so that we do not have to face something like that again, that this street doesn't have to get dug up in that same manner. That's important to us. That's important to you, we know. So that's why having Grid aware and involved is important. Jamie, your bartender George asked me to remind you that he's a better mix master than you are when it comes to drinks. Other than that, go ahead with the question.
Well, I'll remind you that they're all my drink recipes, so I'll just leave it there.
There you go.
I'll be following up with him. No, I just everything sounds great. I just wanted to lend my experiences of I am a Glenville resident, born and raised. I spent 20 years in California. I've seen some pretty vicious ADA lawsuits, and so where they know they go after businesses that can't defend themselves, and they give them zero time to fix anything. Sometimes it's just the landlord's fault, or there's no fault at all. So it's nice to see that it hasn't reached here yet. I do know that it does happen in some of the bigger cities. I was in Los Angeles, so to see these ADA things getting taken care of now, even if it is the county or the village's responsibilities, businesses do get dragged into it, and you have to defend yourself. And it gets, I lost 14 grand on a bogus, thing. So I do appreciate what's going on. I'm excited to see what's happening in the future. The only red flag that just popped up right now was the whole talk about gas being shut off. I need gas for my grills and ovens and things like that. So if is there any information now or later on as far as the length of time?
That's going to be a great question ultimately, Jamie, but I'm sure that Jeff is going to have somebody that we can help coordinate with to get the information, or to at least get a phone number over to folks that have that concern. So when we get a little bit more information from Grid, I think that's the time we are able to provide you that. They're obviously not going to give us the information one day and come out the next. So there will be some warning time on this for sure. Jeff, you want to add anything?
I'm not an expert at that, but they're out to service their customers. So just because they're replacing a main doesn't mean they don't shut off a main and take weeks while no one has gas. That wouldn't happen. So they'll put new in, while maintaining old, and then do a switch over. And they typically coordinate directly with properties and businesses as far as if there's any downtime during the switch over type thing. So it won't ever be a long span of time that I anticipate they're actually, wouldn't have service. I don't think they're allowed to do that, or they wouldn't want to do that anyway. So, yeah.
Okay.
And Jamie, with respect to ADA, one of the things, as I said, it's now coordinated with our CHIPS money are required. So we have an 11-year cycle with our streets for repavement. So basically within the end of that 11-year cycle, every street in the Village of Balsas Spa, or just about every street, is going to have their ADA ramping done, because that's the requirement to have these funds used for these repaves. So that's the upshot of this. It makes Jeff's life a little bit miserable because it takes a lot of time, obviously, but it's going to get done across the village in that process.
Can you hear me?
Sure can.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I just want to be very clear that these aren't cases, and you can Google this. These aren't cases of legitimate, ADA breaches of, or whatever. These were predatory lawyers, I had my own lawyers tell me that if you go to their actual, place of business, they have receptionists behind bulletproof glass. They go after businesses like this, and in the law in California, you don't even have to have stepped foot in the location or the business to sue them. And so it became a gigantic problem, and it's already burdensome as it is with expenses and taxes out there. So I just wanted to point that out.
The only thing worse than politicians are lawyers. I happen to be both, so I don't know what that says about me at this point, but we'll just go with that. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Darwin, your sound is on. If you have anything for us.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Sure can. Go ahead.
You want to ask a question?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes.
We can't hear you if there is a question coming through. So let us know.
1 second. Trying to get
Sure.
the mute right.
Dana commiserates. You had it for a second there, Diana. Darby, if you want to use yours just in front of her as a microphone or something, feel free.
Her phone is not working. Here, use my mic.
Okay. Hi guys, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Well, trying to fix this thing, but taking is not taking right now.
We're all good though. We can hear you. So go ahead. What's your
Okay,
question or thought?
so I have a question real quick, and I think that's going to be for Jeff. So you guys have a time frame right now. What would be like if you encounter any difficulties? How long is it going to take? Like, how will be the new time frame? I just want to be ready for everything and anything. I don't know if I'm making sense.
I'm sure unpredictable, though. I'm not really, it may extend the schedule. We hope that doesn't happen. But I, here again, can't, don't know what to anticipate there. So if it pulls out the schedule or lengthens the schedule, that'll be unfortunate, but we hope that we can overcome anything that we run into.
And we're making sure in our meetings over the last couple of weeks, I've been spotting possibilities of things that we can do to assist Jeff that might not be in his budget, for instance, or something along those lines. And obviously scheduling other contractors is tough because obviously there's a time frame. They've already started scheduling some of their work throughout the spring too. But if there's something that can be done to assist and shrink the schedule to avoid that worst case scenario, that's what we are working with Jeff to identify right now. So it's not to say that they're going to need that help. And it sounds like they're also trying to get a jump on some of the work that they might have started in late March now with the window that the weather is giving us, it seems like. So everybody's quite aware that nobody wants this dragging into June, and we're doing everything we can to make sure it does not drag into June and hopefully ends more like mid-May if we can get it to happen. So be assured that we're working on that. Go ahead, Natalia.
So jumping off of Diana's question too, if there happens to be a situation where there has to be a closure so far that it cuts off access to our store or in some way, could there be plans put in place for a store to do a pop-up somewhere, alternative locations where we could engage in business if it were to happen? So like like backups for us to have different venues to sell if need be.
I don't foresee that cutoff of any way, shape, or form happening. The only thing that could be happening is that there's an extended period of time that we don't get to do that sidewalk because it's raining every day for some reason. But there's still the access around that scenario. We're not going to be debilitating any storefronts in this process. The only thing that could be interesting in that is if your property owner, the building owner, decides I'm going to redo my sidewalk, and then you're going to have to deal with their contractor on that question about how they're going to accommodate you. in that respect, because that's not us. That's going to be your property owner's contractor then. So again, this is going to be a lot based on communication. If we're running into issues, we're going to communicate those to you and to Dana as well, to make sure that she's kind of the town crier, I know, with the businesses, so, or village crier, I guess. So she'll make sure that everybody knows where we're at. But at the same time, from everything we've seen, and this is one of the biggest questions I've been hounding Jeff about, we're not attempting to close any storefronts in this process or make anything inaccessible. So I don't think we have to worry about doing pop-ups in that respect. I mean, if you want to do one just to kind of, you know, make sure you have a little bit of extra business somewhere somehow, you know, that's, you know, have fun and, you know, just go through the normal routine process on that. But otherwise, go ahead.
Or just to, so even if it doesn't cut access, that type of construction wouldn't affect things like because Jamie mentioned this too, the cutting of the gas lines. Could it affect any utilities in any way, or access to water in the building, or access to electricity, or access to whatever is coming from the street? Could that be affected? Which would, in fact, even though there's no access cut, could it affect the functionality of the building?
Jeff, go ahead.
I don't plan that us, cutting any utilities. There's no guarantees, but that's not in the plan. I don't picture that happening here again, where most of our work is on the surface. So along with, except for some catch basins. So I don't, anything could happen at any time, but I don't foresee anything, water or sewer, or, here again, I don't deal with electricity, is mostly overhead. So I don't anticipate those things happening. I mean, anything could happen, but I don't anticipate that happening.
Okay. Anybody else want to ask a question, give a comment or anything? We're getting close to kind of that 2 o'clock threshold, which wasn't a complete cutoff, but I know that you also have stuff to do in your days, on your day off per se. So any last thoughts for anybody? Bernadette, you've been sitting there quiet. If you want to give a little pep talk or thoughts or anything like that, feel free as we kind of transition off.
Mainly just, I want to thank everybody for coming together. Dana, the mayor, Jeff, thank you so much for taking the time to kind of explain what this is going to be, how it's going to look. I hope that, biggest thing is communication, and we're always here. I'm always here for you guys, whether you're a BSBPA member. I know I'm their liaison, but I consider myself the business's liaison, and obviously just representing everybody here. So I'm also available to talk. And if there's a hiccup, please let us know. I don't foresee any of that, but please let us know, and we will do our best to work around that and help you as best as we can. But thank you, guys.
Thank you. Also remember that this is going to be available in archive format eventually on my Facebook page and then on the Village's YouTube page once we're able to post that up tomorrow at some point in time. So for those that weren't able to watch this for some reason, please let them know it's out there. Again, we'll be doing this again soon. Get together when we have even more information, maybe some updates on where we are. Jeff's been able to get a little bit of a jump on certain things. Maybe we get a little more optimistic information to you there. But overall, I'm optimistic on the project because while it sounds like a lot at 9 weeks, and it is, but it's obviously we're doing things methodically to make sure that we are not detrimentally affecting your businesses and your properties. And so we are trusting Jeff and DPW in that process, and they're doing a great job being transparent about it and working on a very good plan overall to make sure we minimize effects at all stages. Don't hesitate to send me an email or come on in and talk to us or call me. You know how to get a hold of us. And otherwise, have a great rest of the day and a great Valentine's Day tomorrow. And maybe see some of you at the meeting later on today at 7 o'clock. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.